Very good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Saturday afternoon webinar on the Cultural Grant Program from the Department of Cultural Affairs. My name is Ben Espinosa. My pronouns are he and him. I'm joined by Brenda Slaughter-Reynolds and Rafael Vaca. We are all from the Grants Division at DCA, and we thank you for joining us again today. To start off today's session, I'd love to invite Brenda to offer a land acknowledgement. Brenda?
Thanks, Ben. Hello, everyone. My name is Brenda Slaughter-Reynolds. My pronouns are she, her. I'm wearing a white top and glasses, and I have dark hair. I'd like to begin this meeting with the land acknowledgement. The City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs recognizes and acknowledges the Yavatim, the first people of this ancestral and unceded territory from the Tongva village of Yagna, now known as downtown Los Angeles. The greater Tongva region, which contains much of the current city of LA, contained hundreds of independent Tongva villages, is called Tongva Nar, or the first people of this land. We pay our deepest respects to their elders, past, present, and future. Please take a minute to consider the land and water we live upon, and the many legacies of the once vibrant communities stripped of their freedoms and cultural traditions. Today, they call themselves the Gabrielino Tongva, the Fernandino Tatavim, and the Venturino Chumash. We recognize that the Yavatim are still here, and we are committed to lifting up their stories, culture, and lifeways, and honoring their land, ocean, and sacred spaces. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Brenda. As a way of offering a preview of what we can expect over the next 90 minutes, we're going to focus the first portion of our presentation today to go over some very basic program elements. We'll take time to discuss eligibility, the types of projects we seek, funding priorities, and our application cycle process, and a very brief project timeline. We'll shift gears midway. We'll invite Brenda to walk us through a deep dive of the online application process itself. We'll go and see an in-process application on the SurveyMonkey Apply platform, which is what we use for applications. And then we'll take it from there. Everyone is muted, of course, so we can't hear you. We do, however, invite questions throughout today's presentation. Take advantage of the text box feature in the bottom right portion of your screen. If you type in questions through that text window, our colleague Rafa L will be watching that stream and monitoring questions as they come in. We'll pause at opportune times throughout today's presentation to address any questions that haven't been addressed by the presentation. For folks who may be dialed in today and are therefore unable to type in questions, please save questions as well. We'll invite you to unmute yourselves at the very end of the presentation and allow you to ask your question over the air. All right, so first a little bit about the Department of Cultural Affairs. DCA promotes arts and culture as a way to ignite powerful dialogue, to engage LA's residents and visitors, and to ensure our city's varied cultures are recognized, acknowledged, and experienced. Our mission here at DCA is to strengthen the quality of life in our city by stimulating and supporting arts and cultural activities and ensuring public access to the arts for all of our residents and visitors. And one of the main ways we go about achieving this mission, of course, is through our grant making, the Cultural Grant Program in particular, which is what we're talking about today. The Cultural Grant Program, along with many other programs offered through the Department of Cultural Affairs, is funded through a transient occupancy tax, a hotel bed tax, collected at hotels, motels, and even Airbnbs across our city. Based on recent years, and our budget allocations using this funding source has allowed DCA to award approximately $3.5 million each year to support nearly 350 arts and cultural organizations across the city. These are organizations who are small, emerging, to very, very large organizations who have operating budgets even far greater than our own here at DCA. And we support their work as they develop and produce free and low-cost activities for our public. All right, so the Cultural Grant Program, of course, is up and live right now, accepting applications up until next Friday's deadline of August 27th. We are looking for new proposals for activities that will take place no sooner than July 1, 2022, going into June 2023. In other words, the upcoming fiscal year for the city. So this is several months in the future. So as a way of framing, as we talk about the program today and talk about what elements make up strong proposals, we invite everyone to envision a world where COVID is abated, we can all gather safely back together again and experience the arts in the way we're accustomed to. So we do invite projects that envision safe activities in person. All right, so let's jump in. Let's start off the presentation with some very basic eligibility requirements. The Cultural Grant Program is intended to support 501c3 nonprofit organizations, and specifically 501c3 arts organizations with mission statements that focus on delivering arts and cultural services for the public. There's one exception to this. If you're a different kind of nonprofit organization, perhaps a 501c3 who's involved in social services, public health, maybe you're a different kind of 501, such as a 501c6 Chamber of Commerce, Business Improvement District, you may be eligible for this grant program too. If you're proposing a project that's under our festivals and parades category, the expectation is if you are applying in that category, you're working with arts organizations or other arts experts to help curate an arts and cultural experience in your festival or parade. Second requirement for our nonprofits is that you be based in Los Angeles County. As I mentioned earlier, these are locally generated funds intended to support organizations who are headquartered here in Los Angeles County. In addition to being based in LA, we want you to be able to come to us with already 1 or more years of experience providing arts and cultural services in the city of LA. So within LA County, there is, of course, a municipal map for the city of Los Angeles. We want to know that you have experience providing services in our city also. A third requirement is very important. We want you to come to us with an existing project that you've carried out in the past, with a pitch for how a city investment can make it bigger, faster, stronger. In other words, this grant program is not intended to support brand new ideas, new concepts, pilot projects, or seed funding for new initiatives. We want you to have that experience and with a track record before you come to us with an application in this grant program. Another takeaway from this third requirement is that the DCA is not an organization operational funder. We are a project funder. Generally, these are projects that have time spans of 3 to 6 months with service dates that can range from 1 day to up to several weeks. Please don't come to us with activities that span longer than 6 months in duration or worst case, 12 months of funding. That's just not the way this grant program is structured. The grant amounts are too small to support any ongoing operational activities. So do come to us with a project, as we are a project funder. Another reason why we want you to come to us with at least 1 year of track record of producing the project that you're proposing is that way you'll have awesome, fabulous metrics, public engagement numbers, creative workforce support numbers that you can share with us and with our peer panels when reviewing your project. With 1 year or more of experience, you'll be able to share with us the most recent instance of community impact, the number of artists and creative workers that your project has helped sustain, and tell us about the wonderful audience members that came in to experience your work. And on top of that, you'll have fabulous photos and video recordings of your project in action that you can use to dazzle our peer panelists. So come to us with that ready at hand. And finally, there are a number of project-specific qualifications depending on the type of proposal category that you're applying in that we'll go over in a few minutes. And to that point, let's talk about those various types of projects. So the very first one is the artistic project. The vast majority of the applications we get fall under this category. An artistic project is one where your team of professional artists, curators, administrative staff, technical production teams, and other creative workers that you work with do what they do best and are putting their efforts and tapping into their experience and skill set to generate a project that results in a public presentation in the arts and culture that's meant to benefit the public. So these are your museum exhibitions. These are your speaker reading, literary arts reading series. These are film screenings. These are your public concerts, performances, and other types of arts and cultural presentations. This is also a category where you may propose skill-building art-making workshops meant for the general public. But in those types of projects, it's still important to emphasize, along with all other artistic projects, the public presentation element. We are interested in the public presentation of your team's great work. In addition to artistic projects, another popular project category that we receive here at DCA and are thrilled to support are our festivals and parades category. And there's some tweaks to this coming cycle, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But generally speaking, festivals and parades, these are generally large-scale projects because they benefit an audience of 1,000 or more. It's a 3+ hour event. It takes place generally on a single day, maybe a weekend, typically an annual recurring event that's very focused on super community relevant themes, celebrates community and focuses on neighborhood cohesion. Festivals, one of the more so than many other of our types of projects and other categories, they really emphasize an element of activating a space in the community, not just offering arts and cultural opportunities for the public, but also activate local businesses and engage other local non-arts partners. So it's a much more kind of community-focused event. In the past, these events need to have taken place outdoors in publicly run spaces. This year, we're introducing some different elements here. We are breaking it into 3 categories. We're calling the first one is a small outdoor public space festival and parade, where you have recently, in your last iteration of your project, served 1,000 to 2,000 people. We also have projects in the large festival parade category. These are events that have served more than 2,000 people. And we are learning from some of the events that were successfully carried out in recent years, festivals that recently successfully pivoted into an online virtual setting. We will now accept proposals that focus on online virtual events, but we want you to be able to show us where a viewership participation of more than 4,000 people. Importantly, able to tell us that at least half of those viewers were based here in the LA area. We are still interested in locally, focused projects. So in that category, important that you show us you have the means to track viewership based here in LA. And another important element about our festivals and parades, these are projects that generally have some element of rotation, revolving talents and artists featured and presented. We expect our festival and parade projects to showcase a range of artists, bands, performers, and musical acts. We don't want festivals and parades that show the very same roster of performers every year. We want some element of new talents included in your proposal. So make sure that stands out in your project proposal. In particular, we expect to see at least a 30% shift and update of your roster of participating artists and acts. If your festival parade shows the very, very same artists and performers from last time, that's not great. And may be deemed ineligible. So make sure that your proposal highlights the fresh talents that your project will have a chance to present. We have 2 additional project categories to talk about, and both of these feature brand new category naming as what you may be accustomed to seeing in prior years. The first one is called, the first one is what was previously our arts education project category. We are renaming it into this: Sequential Arts and Learning, Sequential Arts and School Learning, culminating in after-school public events, SailCAPE for short. It's a mouthful of a project category, but that was intentional because built into that project title is some very clear expectations of what we expect your project to feature. These are multi-week, rigorous, California Arts Standards aligned, grade appropriate arts and cultural residencies that take place at school. They generally take place during the school day, focus on specific grades, are aligned to the visual and performing arts, VAPA art standards that from the state. These are multiple weeks in duration, but they culminate in a public event that takes place after school. It takes place in the evenings, or in the best case in the weekends, where the general public is invited to participate and attend. Not just the friends and family of the youth served. It's important to us that projects in the Sail Cape category highlight and feature culminating events that are marketed to the community. We want these Sail Cape projects as an opportunity to activate community engagement around the arts learning happening in their neighborhood schools. Okay, so, and specifically regarding this project category, we want your multiple week residency to really be based around the rigorous curriculum. And to that point, our expectation is that Sail Cape applicants must provide a detailed full curriculum that accompanies their proposed residencies. One of the reasons we renamed this category this year and moving forward is that oftentimes we receive projects submitted as an arts education project that did not include that multi-week standards aligned rigor that we are looking for. Traditional examples, classic cases rather, might be a one-off school assembly that may be educational in nature, but did not span more than one or two visits at the school. It could be a standalone masterclass, for example, a drop-in after-school performance intended for the school population. That for us doesn't fit in under our Sail Cape category, but is a good fit for our artistic project. So our expectation that folks who have applied in the arts education category in the past we will invite you to apply in the artistic project category if it doesn't reflect this multi-week residency after school presentation structure. The final category is what we're now calling the field advocacy and sector learning category. In the past, this was our business education arts advocacy category. This is a very minor name change. We just wanted this name to be to evoke the broad range of activities that we support in this category. So this is a FASL project, field advocacy and sector learning project, is one where you bring artists, arts administrators together. And rather than them working together to make a public presentation, it's an opportunity for convening, for peer-to-peer networking and learning. So these are your conventions, your conferences, your nonprofit art sector workshops focused on serving our art sector. So we have many projects in this category also. All right, so after that, let's now talk about our proposal submission cycles. In the ideal scenario, we've structured a grant program here where you, the applicant and or grantee, are only required to apply to DCA every other year. And we do that by inviting discipline-specific projects on this odd year calendar year versus even number calendar year cycle. It's based around when we convene the peer panel experts who are best suited to evaluate your grant proposal. So for example, this year is 2021. We are now in an odd numbered calendar year. So this is going to be the year where we're going to convene our museum professionals, our design curators, our literary arts experts, our media film festival producers and experts, our traditional folk arts, culture history experts to come together to reevaluate proposals. And for that reason, we are especially interested in project proposals under these various categories. And festivals and parades, Sail Cape, they're offered every year, but this is going to be the year where we're going to convene our art specialists who focus on filmmaking, media arts, festivals that emphasize a non-performing arts theme as on-cycle proposals. If you fit in these categories and you're submitting an application this year, you are submitting what we call an on-cycle proposal. The benefit of that is that your proposal will be reviewed by the experts who are best suited to evaluate your proposal, and it will allow you, if funded, 1 year of funding and a chance to renew your project for a second year of funding. If, on the other hand, you are a more performing arts-focused organization, maybe you're a dance company, you're a symphony or a chamber orchestra, you could be a theater company, multidisciplinary arts organization, you're also eligible to apply. if you submit a proposal this year, in this odd numbered calendar year, you'll be submitting what we call an off-cycle grant proposal. And rather than having performing arts experts evaluate your proposal, we're going to have a mixed panel of arts experts review it. And that will be good for funding consideration for 1 year only. In the end, if you get funded this year as a performing arts organization, we will invite you to apply again next year, an even numbered calendar year, to submit a new application to become on cycle. And then thereafter, you will be on this every other year application cadence. So let's talk about the types of projects we expect to see this year. This will be the year where we're going to see our arts advocacy organizations, our field advocacy, sector learning organizations submit proposals. We'll see our museums apply this year. This will be our year for various visual arts institutions submitting their new exhibitions and the associated public programs. Literary arts organizations are going to be applying this year. These are for their authors, speaker series, literary events and readings. This is the year of our film festivals. They'll be all submitting proposals this year and other public television, public radio, other media projects. Traditional folk art, culture history organizations. This is the year we'll be convening those experts. Those will be the on-cycle types of proposals we'll be seeing. These are also exhibitions, cultural heritage programs, art making projects. And festivals, parades, delegate projects that emphasize a non-performing arts focus. So these are culturally specific themed festivals and media, filmmaking, school residencies, for example. As I mentioned earlier, if you're a performing arts organization, you're welcome to submit what we call an off-cycle proposal. So these are your dance concerts, music concerts, theatrical presentations and productions, arts residencies focusing on the performing arts at public schools, festivals and parades that emphasize the performing arts, as well as other performing arts focused public presentations. This is a very heavy slide. I will pause here and ask Rafa if we've received any questions so far on any content that we've presented?
Not yet.
Okay. We'll continue on then. So yes, the big takeaway from this is it's a lot of content in this slide. Basically, if you are a non-performing arts organization and you're applying this year, you're submitting an on-cycle proposal. Your proposal will be reviewed by the peer panelists who are best suited to evaluate your proposal. They'll be the ones to assess your artistic merit, your administrative capacity, your ideas and impact, and community relevance. If you're a performing arts organization, you're welcome to apply. We'll have a mixed panel of experts review your proposal and assess you in those same criteria, but it'll only be good for 1 year funding consideration. All right, moving along. Now, I'd love to highlight some key funding priorities that DCA has with this grant program. You are all savvy grant writers, and one of your tasks as you prepare a grant proposal for not just us, with any funder, really, is to really identify those points of intersection where your project goals overlaps with our goals as a funder. You're going to want to highlight for us where your mission and community impact dovetails with our intention to provide services here in the city. So number one, major important consideration for us is we are interested in free or low cost activities for the general public. So low cost is defined by us as what one might pay for a commercial movie ticket. So if you're offering tickets to a public presentation that costs the public in the $20 or less range, you're in the ballpark for what we call a low cost activity. Free, of course, is even better for us. And we want these events to be open to the public. So one of the ways you can turn this into a focus of your project proposal is to emphasize the free or low cost elements, of course, but to consider what DCA funding can do to make sure some of your great work is available at free or low cost to the public. It's fine for us if you are a producer of an arts and cultural event where you're charging tickets in the more expensive range, $50 plus. If your pitch to us is that a DCA grant can allow a portion of your tickets to be sold at free or low cost for seniors, for students, for the weekday matinees where the public can see your latest production at free or low cost, that's a way of defining a project for your proposal. Second, one of the things that we consider here in the city as a municipal funder is the geography of where our projects take place and where the opportunities are for the public to experience the arts. So geography is very important to us. Let me shift to a map of the city so we can all see what this looks like. This is the map of all the areas shaded in the green area are parts of the city of Los Angeles, what we call kind of like the elephant ear map here. So if you focus on the downtown area where all those freeways intersect, this is where you have a lot of arts organizations and museums and performing arts institutions. And to the west of there, when you get into Hollywood or so, this is an area we would call as arts generously served. It's an area where you can throw a stone and it'll ricochet off several arts organizations. Other parts of the city are arts moderately served, where there are still lots of arts opportunities, but far less density. But then there are areas for us that are arts underserved. And these are areas where we are especially interested in funding arts and cultural opportunities. So the first area for us is the San Fernando Valley. In this area, all above the 101 and 134 freeways, going as far north as Arleta, into Sun Valley, into Van Nuys, and further west into Chatsworth, Granada Hills, Northridge, even further west, going into Canoga Park and Woodland Hills, all areas where we would love to see more arts programming. And so we would incentivize projects that can take place there. Also, there are areas in South LA, area just below the 10 freeway going as far down to the 105. We are also interested in funding more arts opportunities here. San Fernando Valley and South LA, this corresponds to 6 council districts for us. It's council districts 3, 6, 7, and 12 in the Valley, and council districts 8 and 9 in South LA. I'll say that one more time. In the Valley, that's council districts 3, 6, 7, and 12. And in South LA, that's council districts 8 and 9. So to the extent that you are authentically able to produce a proposal that focuses services in those areas, it can only strengthen your project. A classic example might be an arts education institution. Maybe you have a filmmaking media residency that serves many many public schools across our city. If there's a way you can focus your project to emphasize residencies at schools based in the San Fernando Valley or South LA, it's a great way to strengthen your proposal. Perhaps you're a nomadic arts presenter that provides free and low-cost public presentations across a variety of venues across the city. Perhaps you focus on chamber music, or you're a choir. To the extent possible, if you have great partnerships in South LA or in the Valley where we have a variety of traditional and non-traditional venues for presentations, that could be another way to strengthen your proposal. So geography is one element important to us as a city. We want to make sure every part of all of our residents and visitors, even the far-flung parts of our city, have access to the arts. The third important priority for us is that you come to us with projects with a track record of capacity enrollment and gangbuster attendance. We are interested in projects that have a history of sold-out shows, of sold-out tickets, and where your project is something that your community really values and wants to attend. These are projects where you are making the case for us that a city investment can expand your ability to serve even more people. We want to be able to support projects that show capacity enrollment. And finally, one of our other major priorities here at DCA is to support projects and activities that create and sustain jobs for artists and other creative workers, as well as arts administrators. You can't forget about our arts administrators. So as you develop your project proposal, to the extent possible, you want to emphasize and prioritize the compensation of professional artists, creative workers, and arts administrators. In fact, as you're drafting a project budget and you're finding that a big portion of your budget's not enough of it's going towards artists, it might be a chance for you to finesse and correct that, because or find a different project to propose to us, because funding artists is a major priority.
Hey Ben, before we move on, we have a category question.
Sure.
You can get to. So Annette asked, which category would an arts appreciation series featuring multidisciplinary artists, authors, and arts leaders go into?
Arts appreciation. If it's sounding, it sounds like the question is debating between a sale cape versus an arts appreciation project. whether an arts appreciation project should fit under art sale cape or an artistic project. Generally speaking, my initial reaction, because you say arts appreciation versus rigorous arts education, and I'm assuming this is focused on youth. If it's focused on youth or adults, I think the artistic project category is the best fit for this, as this is an opportunity for your artists and your teaching artists and other creatives in your organization can use their skills to present a series that's open to the public, an artistic project.
Great. And then we have a comment from Liliana Sanchez. We are looking to work with a 501c4 American Legion to open an after-school community center to service a local elementary school.
Okay, so a couple of I'll do a couple of comments on that comment. Is that number one, brand new initiatives and projects, number one, cannot be eligible for funding consideration through our grant program. The only way a non-arts focused nonprofit can apply for a grant directly, it's sounding like this is a case where it's a community center, it's another type of nonprofit. The only way you can apply for a grant program in the future, once you have programming in place that might fit with our priorities, is if you're producing a project in the festivals and parade category. The expectation is you'll be working with other arts experts, arts organizations to curate an experience. If, however, your partnership is going to be school focused, schools cannot apply for our grant program in the future. But if there's opportunities for sale cape type partnerships where there's rigorous arts learning standards aligned, grade appropriate residencies involved, if there's specific teaching artists involved, maybe there's a way such partnerships can be funded through a different grant program, not this grant program, but a different grant program that's focused on funding teaching artists, individual teaching artists. And that's what we have referred to in the past as artist in residence grants. And it's a grant, then those guidelines are slated for posting in September. So you may want to keep an eye out for that as well. All right, if there are no additional questions, I'll jump into the next slide, and it focuses on SMU Data Arts, found at culturaldata.org. The arts organizations in attendance today are probably familiar with this. The Department of Cultural Affairs, along with many other municipal, public, and private funders in our region and across the country, utilize the data that's shared here on SMU Data Arts to help and assist with grant-making decisions. This is a place where you as an arts organization input a variety of metrics with respect to your organization health, your budgeting, your programming, your creative workforce, and so forth. And is super helpful for the funders across our country. And DCA loves using this because it allows us to download standardized reports among all of our applicants and to share that with our grant panelists, ensuring consistency in the way the data is presented. So this can be a time-consuming process. So I hope the arts organizations here have already started that process, and it's a requirement for all our applicants, with a couple of exceptions. So a couple of key details here is that our expectation is that you'll have at least 2 years of programming history entered in your organization's cultural data profile. Any less than that, and you're an arts organization, you're going to be considered an emerging arts organization for us, and it's subject to different funding expectations, and we'll talk about that in a second. In addition to having 2 years of data arts, we want them to be your two years of your most recent years. Okay, so if your fiscal year ended in December, and so that's your fiscal 20 ended back in December, our expectation is that your data arts profile will have at least 2 years with fiscal 20 as your most recent year completed. If your fiscal year just ended in June 30th, like the city of LA's, your fiscal 21 just ended, but because it was just only 3 months away, it will be great if you can have your fiscal 21 data arts information provided. But our minimum expectation from you is to have your prior year as your most recent year, fiscal 20. Okay, we want to make sure that we are looking at your most recent numbers. And what's important here is that there's a key budget detail in your cultural data arts report that we are very interested in. And that's what we call the total revenue less in-kind figure. It's your cash revenue budget, your organization's cash revenue budget. And that's an important number because it helps determine what you're able to ask of us as a grant request when you're preparing your proposal. So brace yourself for a lot of text. This is a very text-heavy slide, intentionally so, because we are often asked the question, what size grant can I request? The answer is it depends, and it depends on a number of factors. And so all those factors are listed here. Based on your organization size, which that's dependent on your cash revenues as depicted on your data arts report, you can ask up to various percentage of that number to us. Also important to note is that the DCA grant program has a one-to-one matching requirement. Our expectation is that any grant awarded to you from DCA will be matched one-to-one with a mix of cash equivalent and or donated in-kind services and materials. So for that reason, any project budget you submit to us, your DCA grant request can never be more than 50% of the total budget because of that one-to-one matching requirement. A couple quick notes on that match requirement. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, this can be a mix of cash and or in-kind sources. And ordinarily, we require at least half your match to come from cash sources. This year, because organizations are just starting to come back to in-person programming, and we want to ease that match requirement expectation a bit and ask that grantees meet their match with at least 30% cash sources, and the rest of it can be donated in kind time, services, volunteer, or materials, and other types of in-kind sources. All right, so let's just go down this list. You've done your homework, you've completed your data arts reporting, and you find that your total revenue less in kind from the most recently completed fiscal year is in the 800K or more range. You are, for us, considered large. Or if you're consistently above the 10 million range, super big, you're extra large. Such organizations can request up to 4% of their recent cash revenues, up to 80K. And of course, no more than half of your project budget. Mid-sized organizations, these are folks with cash revenues of greater than 75K in their most recently completed fiscal year. You can request up to 10% of that cash budget, up to $40,000. Small organizations, these are folks with budgets ranging between $10,000 and $100,000. You can request up to 20% of that most recent cash revenue number, up to $10,000. Emerging arts organizations, these are typically a very small, up-and-coming arts organizations with very small budgets, typically cash revenues of less than 20K. You can request up to $3,000, between $1,500 to $3,000 in your grant request. Note that this also applies to organizations who have fewer than 2 years of information on their data arts profile. Finally, the only project-specific allowable max allowable guidelines applies to our festival parades projects. As you recall, in the prior slide, we have outlined 3 tiers. There's a small parade festival that serves between 1,000 and 2,000 people. There's the large festival parade that serves over 2,000 people. And there's our online virtual festival parade, where in the most recent iteration of that festival or parade, you've served more than 4,000 people, with at least half of those folks based in LA. If you're small, you can request up to $15,000, $30,000 if you're in a large category, or up to $20,000 if you're proposing an online virtual project. In all these cases, that amount should be based up to 30% of your most recent completed fiscal year. So yes, lots of data, lots of considerations. The good news is this year we rolled out a max allowable grant request calculator that takes this logic and makes it into a very simple form for you to fill out. Once you've done a couple of bits of homework to help, just to confirm that you're framing your project around an eligible grant request. So you can find that tool on the DCA website where we have our guidelines, dcaredesign.org/grants. Let's take a peek at that together so we can show off this new tool. We're very excited about it. We hope it'll help remove a lot of the confusion that comes with calculating and submitting an allowable grant request. You've all probably seen this page. This is how you registered for today's webinar. But I want to highlight the section under preparation, matching requirements, and calculating a max request. On this page, it'll go over the very same detail we just discussed, but there's also a link to an allowable grant request calculator. Once you've done your homework and you've completed your data arts report, you've drafted at least a sketch of your project budget, you can use this tool. So click on continue. Let's say you've done your data arts report, your cash revenues from the last completed fiscal year was in the $85,000. Notice there's a small overlap here between small and mid. That's intentional. We want you as the applicant to decide how you want to be evaluated. Peer panelists take budget size category as a consideration. So if, let's say I'm in the $85,000 range, I'm applying as a mid-sized organization. I'm doing a Sail Cape filmmaking residency at a high school in South LA. So I'm doing a Sail Cape project. I'm sorry, I got one step ahead here. Mid-sized organization with a budget of $85,000 organization budget. Type that in, click next. I'm doing a multi-week residency filmmaking at a South LA high school. That's a Sail Cape project. I'm gonna select that as my project type. It's like a 10-week residency culminating in a public presentation. Total budget for that, with my staffing and the X number of teaching artists, it's in the let's say $24,000 range. That's my sketch draft project budget. If you click the calculate max allowable grant request button, it gives you a very clear indication that I'm allowed to request $8,500 based on those data points. $85,000 revenue, $24,000 budget. I'm allowed to request up to 10% of that budget. Okay, so take advantage of this tool. I hope it will be helpful in processing that very text-heavy guidelines around how to calculate this. And this way you are going into putting together a proposal that you know is based on an eligible grant request. All right. A quick overview of the timeline. We are in step 1 right now, where this is when you're registering for and creating a SurveyMonkey Apply account. You're going to submit the proposal by August 27th. That's an online submission deadline. It's a hard deadline. Please make sure to get your proposal in by then. We're as well asking that you mail to us a hard copy of just the proposal, text-based elements of your grant project proposal. That will be due to us with a postmark deadline of September 3. It's the following Friday. DCA offices are still closed to the public, but we are still quite able to receive USPS postal mail. Save the money. Don't use FedEx. Don't use UPS. Good old tried and true USPS postal service. Just go ahead and mail that into us, the DCA offices, by a September 3 deadline of a postmark deadline. You'll get instructions on how to do that once you submit your online application. Then you don't hear from us for a few months. The next time you'll hear from us will be in May, June of 2022. We need that time in between to do an administrative audit of all the submissions, to convene grant panelists, and to conduct the evaluation. Grant notifications will go out in the May, June timeframe. And then, of course, your project can commence in July or anytime in between July and June, with all projects being completed by June 30th. All right, so I'm going to pause here for questions if there are any that have arrived. Rafa?
Yes, Alice asked if these slides can be sent to us electronically.
The slides, you can reach out to us separately, and you can email us at dca.grants@lacity.org and we'll be happy to share with you. In addition, a recording of this is available on the DCA website as well. I'll go back here. On the guidelines website, under the training tab where you registered for this webinar, we are posting recordings of the session as well. So today's session will be posted here as soon as early next week. So you have a way of viewing the slides and our expert commentary on it as well. All right, next question, Rafa.
That's it. I just went ahead and added the link to the grant max allowable calculator so people can check it out.
Fabulous.
Oh, we had one more question come in. Can fiscally sponsored orgs apply on behalf of the fiscal sponsor, or does it have to be directly done by the fiscal sponsor, which is a nonprofit org?
Thank you for the question, and it's something I meant to highlight in the very first slide of our outlining basic eligibility. As I mentioned, this grant program is meant for 501c3 arts organizations, and arts 501c3s need to apply directly. Fiscally sponsored programs are not supported through this program the way it's set up right now. There's one exception to that, and it's through projects that are incubated by community partners. This is an organization based in downtown LA. They're not just a fiscal sponsor. They are an incubator, providing administrative, programmatic, compliance, reporting, and coaching to the various projects to support. That's the only case where an organization is not applying directly. So the immediate response is fiscally sponsored organizations are unfortunately not allowed to apply directly. But if you have connections or associated with being a project community partners, which is a 501c3 nonprofit based in Los Angeles, and you are therefore a project incubated by this arts incubator, that's the one exception to that rule.
We have another question for Regina asking, we are a mariachi academy that serves students in Los Angeles, Wilmington area, and the city strip, but classes are held in Carson. Would we be eligible?
Another important point, thank you for the question. Organizations can be based anywhere in Los Angeles County, but we are a municipal funder, so your activities need to be based in the city of Los Angeles. And so let's go back to that map of the city. Anything outside of any activities taking place outside of the green shaded zones are not allowed through this grant program because you are no longer in the city of LA. And Carson is a separate municipality, separate city outside of the city of LA.
I went ahead and added the neighborhood info website as well in the
Thank
chat.
you. All right. If those are all the questions now, I'd love to pass the mic on to Brenda, who can walk us through the application process on SurveyMonkey Apply. Brenda?
I'd like to walk you through the application process from now through your application and submission. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you my application. Okay. Great. So here I am. I'm getting ready to apply. So I'm going to click my SurveyMonkey apply. I'm going to log in as myself, Susan Ross. But before I can apply, I need to make sure I'm applying for my organization. So I'm not applying as Susan Ross. I'm applying as Festivus. So that's going to take me to my application. I've already started the application. Once you begin your application, you'll also see this page. I'm going to go to my continue. I'm going to keep on working on my application. But I'm going to go in here and we're going to go over this together. We're going to look at my application. Going to go my account settings. I'm going to go to Festivus again. Great. So here I am. I'm going to continue my application. I have 8 different things to complete as well as my uploads and supplementals. I'm going to go into my application right now. I'm going to edit some things I want to change. So here I am. I have my organization information. I have my website, my Dun & Bradstreet, my BABIN number, my BTRC. If you don't already have those numbers, don't worry. If you are recommended for funding, you will then need to get those. You will have plenty of time to secure those numbers after the application process. So for here, I've allocated my budget size as mid-sized, and I see that there is an overlap here, but I do want to apply as a mid-size and not a small arts organization. Now, bear in mind, if I was to apply as a small arts organization, I would be eligible to request 20% of my annual budget. As a mid-size, I can only request 10% of my annual budget. My discipline is going to be culture history. I am going to request $10,000. I have completed my Data Arts Funder report, and this number here, $100,000, is from my Data Arts report, the line that says total revenue less in kind, $100,000. So the primary use of my project is a festival. I'm going to do a small outdoor festival. Now, bear in mind, if you are to click any of these other projects, you will also have additional supplementals. So for my festival project, I have selected the impact is going to be cultural arts jobs and free and low cost social activities. I'm going to do this project in Council District 2. I am located in Council District 2, and I'm also presenting my project in Council District 2. This is your culminating event. So please note, if you're doing an online project, you're going to click all, right? But you're going to have to substantiate how you are reaching all 15 council districts. Otherwise, please select the council district which will be funded by DCA. If your organization has a project that goes to 8 council districts, that's too many for us to fund. Please select the maximum of 4 choices, or online select all. So please remember that if your project has 5 or more districts, that's going to be very difficult for us to decipher which projects you're asking DCA to fund. So these are very important in your selection. They're also awarded geographic points, as Ben had mentioned previously. So please be very careful when selecting these council districts. Also note that you'll be required to upload material substantiating the council districts, who your contact is at the venue, etc. I'll get to that in just a little bit. So my project, I'm saying no, I'm not going to be online, virtual. Of course, public health mandates, I would have to go virtual. Then that, of course, is going to be determined later. My start and end dates, my festival happens December 23rd. Every year, it's the same date. So I'm going to put that start and end date in there. It's one day. Your project shouldn't be more than 6 months, as Ben had stated earlier. So the start and end date should be no more than 6 months apart. Also, please keep in mind, if you do 8 concerts and you're asking DCA to fund 4 concerts, then put the start and the end date of the 4 concerts you wish funding for. Okay? Also be clear on how many participants are involved in your project, how many staff, etc., and also your audience. Now remember, for festivals that we have audience minimums, and so I've cleared that minimum. I'm going to have 2,500 people at my festival. Right? And who's coming to my festival? This is going to tell me all the people that are coming to my festival. You can select up to 5 groups, right? That's going to give us a good idea about your project. All right. Next, I am going to put in my narratives, right? So you're going to be asked these questions, A, B, C, D, E. You'll see a little starburst next to the question. What that means is that a whole group of local funders have come to the conclusion that these questions are best asked of all of us. So, for instance, if you are applying to the county or if you're applying to Pasadena, you will answer the same question for them. So, very important for DCA is the mission of your organization. Remember, we're 501c3 arts-focused organizations, special exceptions for festivals and the like. So you're going to put your mission as it is on your website, as the board has approved it. You're not going to add anything else here. You're going to put your mission in there. Please also note each of your narrative questions has a character limit. Please be careful there. We don't need floral, flowery adjectives. We need to know exactly what we're funding. So this is going to be your history, your programming of your organization, leadership, planning. Do you have short-term, long-term goals? How have board and staff members contributed, etc.? You're going to do community and core audience descriptions. We want to know geography, age, cultural, economics, any detail you can give us. The more specific you can drill down, the better. And we're also wanting you to link up how you meet the needs of that audience and how you develop your programs to meet the needs of them. Your artistic policy, we want to know the process for decision making. We want to know, does the artistic director make all the decisions? Is there a board, an artistic board, an advisory board? Is it the staff? Is it open calls? Please let us know very specifically how decisions are made. And then your project narrative. So we give you a hyperlink here to go back to the guidelines to get more description on the narrative. So this is very important. This is what you're asking DCA to fund. We want to know the operational or artistic project that you want us to fund and how it's going to advance your mission and align with our mission and objectives. It's a 3,000 character limit. I highly recommend working on this prior to your application. Just be careful of the cut and paste or copy and paste, if you will. So please work on very specific language to let us know how these two projects, your artistic project aligns with your mission, DCA's mission, how many people, how it advances your mission, etc. So since we're not a seed funder, we're not a new proposal funder, we are asking you to show us what you did last time. Show your work, as they say in math. So please let us know very specifically 1, 2, 3, and 4. Cost per head, target groups, how you would adjust, notes, metrics, numerical data. We really like to know how our City of Los Angeles population is being served through arts and culture. Next, we have staff and artists. Very important here. Don't skimp. Please be very specific. If, in fact, you're advancing and too far ahead for the project you're proposing, not knowing the players involved, please refer to the most recent staff and artists involved when you did this project prior. Very important for us to not fund open calls or open mic or other things like that. So show us the quality of the work through the staff and artist bios. Please be very specific. Please be, as many characters as you can, 750 characters. Please use all that space to tell us everything about the artist and the project participants involved in getting this on. Okay? Next, we are going to go to our budget. Very important. You're projecting this budget, so it needs to match. Your expenses and your budget need to match. This is not an exercise in making it profitable. This is an exercise in just showing us very specifically how you're going to use this funding to do this project, right? So budget notes to that end are very important to us. So we want to know everything in there. This includes things that you wouldn't be able to be reimbursed for should you be awarded funding. For instance, food, concessions, not refundable, but it is part of my budget and it's very important to my project, so I'm going to put it in there. You need to know that any income has plenty of space for you to allocate what it is used for and what importance it brings to your project, right? So anything that has double, we want you to detail out. For instance, if I have 2 foundation awards, I need to detail them out and let you know how much they are and what they're now in year 5 of a 10-year grant and the like. So any in-kind contributions, parent organization, anything here you can do to let us know what the money is that's coming in for the project. All right? Very important. Please do not leave 21 blank. Please put in there your grant request. My grant request is $10,000. So that's here where it is. I'm going to use other items to match it. Okay, total income. Now I'm going to my expenses, right? I want to detail out. I want to let you know I don't pay salaries. My performers are paid by 1099. I want to detail out all the other costs here, operating expenses, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to spend the money. This is my DCA funding priority, right? I'm going to pay my artists with this money, right? And now I have my grand total, and now I have my cost per head ratio. So $11.36 for an in-person event that's going to last 3 hours. I feel that's justified. I think that $11.36 is perfectly fine for this project as a cost per head. If I didn't, I would have to go rework the numbers, rework my budget, and rework what I'm requesting, okay? At this point, I'm going to mark this as complete, right? So now I have 5 of 8 completed, and I'm going to need to do some uploads here, right? So if you look on the left side of your screen, of my screen here, you're going to see I need to upload my Data Arts funder report. That's only a half circle. So that means I need to upload it. So you're going to upload your Data Arts funder report here, but first I'd like to show you a little bit about what it takes to get to that funder report. You're going to log into SMU Data Arts, culturedata.org. You're going to log in. You have your email, password, login, and you're going to see here funder reports and grants, right? From there, you're going to go find us, Cultural Affairs, City of Los Angeles, Department of Cultural Affairs. That's the funder report I want to do, right? I'm going to generate my report. I'm going to view it first, review it, and then I'm going to make sure it's a DCA logo there to make sure I'm doing the right report. I'm going to create a PDF. I'm going to download it, right? So from there, I'm going to upload it here into my application, okay? And again, any explanations? I think everyone is going to have explanations. It's been an extraordinary couple of years for all of us. So please detail out how COVID has affected your organization. Anything more than 25% income or expense should be explained. Please do this. This really helps the panel understand where your organization is. All right, so I'm going to mark that as complete. Next, I'm going to go to financial snapshot and variances. If I'm an emerging arts organization, this is where I'm going to upload my treasurer signed current financial report. Next, we go, or if I'm another organization that would like to show my 990s or would like to show other financials, please upload that. The more information for the panel, the better. Next up, my IRS designation letter. As a 501c3, I have been given a letter by the IRS that states, congratulations, we're happy to announce, etc. You're going to upload that letter to your application. Okay, next up, I'm going to give you my board of directors. Now we have a handy form in here that is going to populate once you click that. And so what we're going to want you to do is type out onto that board member Excel worksheet your board. Now remember, 3 minimum, that's the law. So please give us 3 board members minimum. All right, next up. After my board of directors, I'm going to upload my artistic work samples. Okay? I can do links or images. And my links can be videos, audios, web pages, etc. I said I'm going to do links. I'm going to do 2 links. I add my URL. I do not have a locked or password URL. Very difficult for the panel to accept something with a password or a file they need to upload again and again. Please be very, very, very clear, no more than 5 minutes on your videos. If it is longer than 5 minutes, please indicate in your description when to start and end. Very important for the panel to be mindful of their time. There's my second URL, and I'm done with my artistic uploads. Okay? So next, supplementary materials. Very important, and for this year, there are many of them, right? I'm going to go here. Artistic documentation, we've just spoken about, videos, audios, published images, and now we're into our supplementary materials for the application. Attachment A, for those of you returning, would be what we used to call the host venue form. This document is going to be connected directly back to the city council districts that you clicked to be your venue. So you're going to name, if you've done more than one, do it for each one. You know, no more than 4 as a reminder. So please name the venue, the address, council district, and the name and title of your contact person at the venue and number of years you presented work at this site. Okay? If you are doing an online project, you need to answer these questions in the PDF document. So You need to let us know how you're going to verify and reach city residents of each council district and allow them to provide feedback. Okay? Attachment B. This is going to be your prior year paid artist. So it's the immediate prior year that you've done this project. So if you're an every other year project, it's going to be the most recent project you've done and completed. Okay, so this is going to be the biographies and everyone involved, similar to the ones that are upcoming for the project you're proposing currently. So this will be bios of your artists and project participants in the immediate prior year, detailed out as much as possible. Okay, and attachment C, recent press material. So this is an outside voice. This is not coming from within. This should not be generated by your organization. This should be unsolicited, wonderful reviews, or a letter to your organization unsolicited. You could have an independent journal, online review even. So please have your recent press material ready to upload as attachment C. Attachment D for SailCape is required. It is not required for the other applications, but anything that relates to curriculum and lesson plan, you can feel free to submit. But it is required for SailCape projects. And this is going to be your lesson plan, your curriculum. It's going to show us how it's aligned with the VAPA standards, and it's going to include how this public skill building workshop happens, etc. Attachment E, optional but strongly recommended. So if your proposed project has non-arts marketing or presenting partners, please upload the document that shows us the names and addresses and the years that your organization has worked with these partners. So don't list any other organizations in this attachment, but please do include your non-arts partners, strategic partners, other organizations helping your mission, etc. And attachment F is again optional, but strongly recommended. A letter of recommendation for your proposed project from non-paid collaborating partner, or it can also be a letter from an individual or family served by your past project. I had included somewhat of this definition earlier when I said recent press material. So this is an outside voice recommending your project specifically, right? And your press materials are outside voices talking about your organization at large. Okay? After I've uploaded all of those documents, I am going to do my service metrics, which is very helpful in letting us know how your organization is broken down, age, ethnicity, and the like. And then I'm also going to do my process evaluation. I love doing this application, or I hated doing this application. It took me too long, or I loved it. Online is the best. After that, I'm going to review everything I've submitted so far. And prior to that, I'm going to make any corrections. And then I'm going to submit. Once you've submitted, you'll receive an email confirming that you have submitted it. And then you are going to submit, which we've just done part 1, submit the electronic submission. Then part 2, from the confirmation email, you're going to verify the electronic submission was received correctly and most importantly on time. And then you're going to print out a hard copy of your proposal. You're going to print out this certification statement, and this is going to get signed by a non-compensated board member as well as yourself. And you're going to mail this certification statement along with the hard copy of your grant proposal to our offices. And that will complete your application. Do we have questions, Rafa? I want to be mindful of the time, so I left a little time for questions. I may have rushed a little bit.
Sure. We have one question. Alice asked for a 5K to 10K community event organization that emphasizes engagement and activity in LA Chinatown. Does it go under festival/parade since odd number year applications will have a non-performing arts emphasis?
5K, 10K community event organization. I'm not sure where the arts focus is, so yes, that would go under festival parade. But just be mindful that a 10K is not necessarily a parade, it's an event. But a parade may have other items of artistic note going on, because specifically running a 5K is a wonderful community event, but not necessarily an artistic endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to that, to the extent that you can fashion the project, because you've done this event in the past. I'm perhaps in the last iteration of this event, if in the last time we did this 5K, 10K, where does the race culminate? Does it take place at a publicly operated facility like a park or the street or the sidewalk, where there's some element of some festival type of elements, such as there's art making? Is there some kind of art, visual media arts presentation? We will be looking for the arts and cultural element. And in fact, the only way it can be eligible is if there is some arts and cultural element that's curated in partnership with an arts expert or arts organization.
Great. Yes, I see Alice has written, it does provide cultural and arts presentations. So wonderful. So you can use your past example of the 5K event, 5-10K event, and highlight that you're going to pay your artists through this DCA grant.
We have another question. What is DCA's estimate of time to prepare the application exclusive of the SMU Data Arts?
I mean, that's really an ad hoc question. It depends on how available you have the information for your organization. If you've applied to any municipal funders locally in the past, you may have answers to those starburst questions that you just might need to update a little bit. If you're starting from scratch, you're going to have to craft many narrative answers. You're going to have to collect all your artist bios. You're going to have to generate your budget. So it really depends on how far along you are in this year's project. Since you've done it before, you have a blueprint to go on. But in terms of time, it's very difficult to say. I mean, we have some people that get done in 2 hours. We have some people that take 45 hours. It really depends on your expertise, how familiar you are with the project, and how much you already have completed for each of these categories requested in the application.
That's right. And I would take the overview that Brenda presented today as a preview of what you can expect to submit once you log into your SurveyMonkey Apply account. As Brenda recommended earlier, it's a great idea to prepare in advance all the responses to all those narrative questions on a separate document, like a Microsoft Word document. Number one, that way you'll have a file of it and saved securely outside of the SurveyMonkey Apply platform. Once you have all of those materials ready to go, when you log in, you can prepare and submit a proposal within 15-20 minutes. It's a matter of how much you prepared outside of the platform, which is what we'd recommend you do, just so you have a record of all the files and responses ready on your side.
Yeah, I see, Cornelia. I do appreciate that it's taken you quite some time each year, and please be sure to give that to us in the feedback. Each year we try to streamline this process and we try to make it less onerous, but we are a municipal funder and it's data heavy and metric heavy. So apologies for that. I know that it's the minutia that can sometimes take a long time, but it is a publicly funded opportunity, and so we need all the information we can possibly get.
Okay. I do see we have folks who are connected via phone. If you have a question, if you're dialed in, you can unmute yourself by pressing the *6 on your phone, and that will enable you to offer a question if you'd like. Okay. We have a raised hand from Alice. Alice, you should feel free to unmute yourself and speak, or you can type in the question as well.
Hi, thanks everyone. I really appreciate the time and presentation. And so the org that I'm representing, I haven't applied before, and so this is really, really helpful. Maybe I might have missed it, but for that SMU data collection, so for part of the application requirements, you would need at least 2 years of data profiles. So I know that you want the most recent, but essentially, if we were to apply today, you would need information for 2019 and 2020, having and have a date stamped to have 2 consecutive years applied, or in one go we can go ahead and include the past 2 years of data.
Yeah, Alice, that's a great question. And first, if you are not a 501c3, it's going to be your partner organization that is arts focused that we need the information from. Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's a festival, not a 501c3, they won't have a data arts, correct?
So,
it is a 501c3. Yeah.
and Alice,
so
are
then,
you a
yes.
arts-focused 501c3?
The part of some fundraising is actually goes to arts programs in the Chinatown area, and so we do have some benefactors like schools, and it also has a cultural aspect to it, particularly in the Chinese cultural community, which is also me trying to assess if we are in fact a good fit for applying for this grant as well.
Alice, this is for a festival parade project category?
Yes, yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
it's not a one-shot kind of event. It's quite multidisciplinary, which is but it does have an arts and cultural focus as well. And so yes, and we do have folks and non-paid board members who do take care of that aspect as well.
You may qualify as an organization that's not arts focused, and that's okay. And if you're an organization that's not arts focused and you're going to be the lead applicant, you could be exempt from the the SMU Data Arts reporting. And if you are applying as a non-arts organization, but you plan to work with arts organizations or other arts experts to curate your experience in your project, you can be the lead applicant. And in lieu of a data arts profile report, you can instead upload your most recently filed 990 or a series of other, profit loss statement, balance statement, other financial documents signed by your board treasurer. And that can serve as the springboard for how you're calculating and substantiating your allowable grant request.
Okay, that sounds really
Alternatively, Alice, you could also go ahead and create your data arts for the project you're requesting funding for. So for this arts and cultural 5K, 10K, you would give us the last 2 years of those financial details in your data arts. In lieu of that, what Ben is suggesting is if you're partnering with another organization or arts-focused persons who are going to help curate, then yes, your financials would verify your grant request.
Understood. Okay, I appreciate that very much.
And I just do want to mention, it's very important for us this year to have your most recent data arts report uploaded and completed. There are a few exceptions to having your fiscal year end a year ago, but not have your financials in would not bode well for the panel. So please be mindful that it is your most current data that's required for this application. We all know that there's been terrific ups and downs financially in the last 2 years. And so that's why it's even more important for DCA to be able to accurately evaluate both the grant request amount as well as the current data in your profile. So to that end, I just want to make sure that everyone can mindfully reach out to Data Arts if they're having problems. All the contact information is on our website. They have streamlined the process a bit, so it is not as lengthy as it was before and does include questions that will necessarily inform the peer panel when reviewing your Data Arts profile. Yes. So Regina, you held classes via Zoom and not in person, and with individual, not group. Our financials reflect this. Would this impact our designation of small or mid-size? So Regina, that's really for you to answer. Of course, the request amounts are different for small or mid-size, but the SMU Data Arts has changed the profile to reflect what has happened. So there are a lot of COVID questions that get answered in the Data Arts profile. So for your question specifically, I would just say it's making sure the entire application matches each other. Your mission matches the request of the project that you're wanting to get done. Your budget matches your organization. Your project budget also is within your organization's allowable. So I would say that if your project budget fits better into a mid-size, and you can substantiate that your financials are mid-size for your organization, I would do that. However, on a side note, just to let you all know, DCA, as a municipal funder, we would love to fund everything at 100%. Unfortunately, we are never allowed a city budget for that. Every year we are asked for approximately $12 million, and every year we have approximately 3.4 more or less to award in grants. So that's another reason we ask for scalable projects. If you want us to fund 6 concerts and you only have enough money for 3 concerts, we want to ensure that your matching funding would cover the other 3 concerts. We would never be able to fund anything at 100%. So please be mindful of that when making your application as well. In addition to the fact that Ben had mentioned projects should not go over 6 months. Due to invoicing and reimbursement and other factors within the city, we have our limitations on how long we can let this funding go. And so please understand that these grant awards are the best that we are able to offer based on SCORE peer panel review. The process is pretty transparent. It's described further on our website in the guidelines. So administrative capacity counts, watch your typos, your financials count, make sure you have the budget notes. So we understand everyone's going through COVID, everything has changed, the world's gone upside down, and that is taken into consideration. But what also needs to be understood is that our limitations on funding, right? So please be mindful of that when making your calculated request and do the math. Make sure it's best for you to apply as mid, or maybe it's better if you apply as small. So that's another ad hoc question, and the grant calculator that's been created by our wonderful Ben would be helpful in that situation where you can plug in very different numbers and see what the outcome is. Always ask for the maximum allowable request.
I'll add a couple of notes to that. Yes, when determining small, mid, or whatever budget size category, it is important that it be based on the factual cash revenue that you're reporting in your data arts report. And we understand that many organizations will be reporting numbers that are vastly smaller as compared to their prior year submissions, but that's the reality we're in. Do know our peer panelists will be sensitive to that and will be aware that that's going to be a common trend that we'll expect to see across all of our applications. But in the end, your calculation does need to be based on the factual cash revenues your organization is able to report from your most completed fiscal year. Okay. Well, do know Brenda, Raphael, and myself are available to you primarily via email. Our offices are still closed, so our phones we can't get to them that easily. Do send us a note at dca.grants@lacity.org with any follow-up questions. We're happy to help. This is a grant application deadline week, though, so the sooner the better. As there tends to be a spike in questions that come in at the 11th hour. But folks who are on this webinar are going to be much more prepared, and we'll be sure to have their materials ready to submit well before Friday's deadline. Fingers crossed. I hope it's the case.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone that took Saturday afternoon to attend this webinar. We really appreciate your time and are very grateful for your interest in this grant program and to serve the city of LA.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.